Good afternoon, everybody. We're back at it again with a very special guest in Nino Bonaccorsi, five-time NCAA qualifier, 2021 finalist, 2023 NCAA champ, U23 world team member. The list goes on and on. Take me back to your high school days in regards to the recruiting process. What schools were you considering? And ultimately, what was the silver lining in becoming a Pitt Panther?
Yeah. So I wish, I had a cool kind of recruiting story, but my family's like built within Pitt. I had my brother go to Pitt. My dad went to Pitt for a little bit. So basically, and I kind of always knew I wanted to go to Pitt because just growing up, I always went to the Pitt matches and just down to the sporting events and everything. So I was very close to the campus. So when it was time to I was eligible to be like recruited and like verbal and commit and stuff, I committed to Pitt pretty early. So it wasn't like they had a super like strong recruiting visit on me or anything. I always knew I was going to go to Pitt. Um, so it was kind of nice to, kind of go back to a place where I've been kind of been to growing up and everything, throughout my career and in high school and middle school and everything. So that was kind of my story with kind of committing to Pitt. And then just the silver lining of going there was just to kind of carry on that tradition of like a Pitt Panther family. And again, I'm a real homebody, so it's nice to compete for a school kind of in my backyard. And when it's home matches, it's like truly home matches for me because it's like it is, like I said, in my backyard.
So you had a bit of an interesting senior year, right? Where you committed to Pitt, like you said, but then there was like a big coaching change where I think it was a complete new coaching staff your senior year. Did that have any effect on you? Like, did you second guess your commitment at all, or was it like Pitt till the wheels fall off kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of Pitt till the wheels fall off, but I mean, it was at a time there kind of a little hectic because, like you said, I mean, you're pretty set on the coaches that you're going to have. And, I obviously, when I was growing up, going to the Pitt Wrestling Club and everything, like I knew them and I was comfortable with them. So when it was, that whole everything went down and we were getting new coaches, it was a little bit of like not a concern, but more of just like, I wonder how this is going to play out. Um, Still was probably going to commit to Pitt either way because I just know like we had a good administration, and I'm like I know they're going to kind of find the right guy. Um, and then we couldn't have actually been happier when they announced Coach Gavin and the staff he brought along, and so it was kind of like a blessing in disguise that I was able to get such a great staff. Not that the staff wasn't good then too; they were great as well. But it was just nice to see I think what really stuck out to me was just I kind of meshed with the new coaches very well. I meshed with Keith and Lean at the time, and Drew Headley was he was from the old staff. He stayed on, so it was nice to have some familiar faces, and obviously having a guy who was also at Pitt, like Keith's alma mater was Pitt, so that was always very nice. But yeah, so when they announced that, I was very happy, and I was excited to get to work with them.
Yeah, so you brought up Coach Gavin. How much of an influence did he have on you in your career? Obviously everyone knows like you guys were both never won a state title, but you wound up being NCAA champs. You guys were both upper weights and whatnot, and pretty similar stories. So talk about what he's meant to you and what kind of impact he had on you in your career.
Yeah, he's been very very instrumental in my career. I think something that like bonded us for initially was that, like you said, we kind of had similar stories. We both never won a state title, and we were both just obsessed with the process of getting better every day. And I think that's how we initially really clicked because I think he saw in me that this is like my lifestyle. I don't just do this just to like do a sport in college. Like this is I put everything into it, and I think he kind of appreciated that. And that he's also an upper weight and I'm an upper weight, so we would get to wrestle like every day, and it just that kind of bond just continues to grow. And he was it's nice having someone like Keith in your corner who's had a similar story to you as far as progress and kind of wait until the end of your career to finally break through and win the title. It was just great having someone like that in your corner and eventually getting to the point where like he knows everything about my style. Like it's nice. You kind of can't get off the hook in practice or everything because he knows how I should be competing and the pace I bring. So he holds me accountable for how I should wrestle, and I wouldn't. It was very great for me, and he was a perfect coach for me, and I couldn't have been here without Coach Gavin today. So he played a huge role in my college career and just life in general. He was also a great mentor and role model, someone to kind of look up to outside the sport too. Just his mind and his philosophies toward like just progressing as a person was just always very something that stuck with me. So
Yes.
yeah.
Speaking of which, so obviously you guys, the Pitt Panther program kind of came a long way since you been there. How have you seen the team grow since you've been at Pitt? And what can you like attribute that to? Is it like all Coach Gavin and what his philosophies are, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely a process. I think we had a real big culture change at Pitt, and I think I can attribute a lot of it to Coach Gavin and just his philosophy towards wrestling. Um, it started to turn into a team where it was like, not that it wasn't like this in previous years, but it was more so like we're like we're fully committed to this sport. Whereas, sometimes you get teams or you get, some years where you get a lot of guys, majority of the guys who are kind of wrestling, but they're not all in. But we were recruiting and preaching the philosophy that like, hey, if you want to be good and want to be on the team, like you got to be all in.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of that started with, me. Then we had a transfer, Mickey Philippi, who was also very, dedicated and all in along with Coach Gavin's philosophies. And then kind of we got the ball rolling with that. And then we were able to get, recruits like Cole Matthews and Kellen Stout and like just all these guys when we were a young team who were, good and talented. And obviously that brings us success. And then with success comes like, you get some eyeballs from recruits. They're like, hey, they got something rolling at Pitt. So it helps us get more recruits. And then by that point, you're pretty set in your philosophies as a team. And so yeah, I think it was a little bit of a process and it takes some time, but I think we're at a good point now where everyone wants to get better. And it used to be when me and Mickey rolled into Pitt, it was a lot of like me and him would stay after, but you wouldn't see a lot of guys stay after practice, right, and do some extra stuff. But as time went on, when practice was over, nobody left. Everyone kind of stayed and was either talking wrestling, working out, doing extra. And it was just a cool sight to see. It was really like a visual sight of like, hey, this team's changing for the good, and we're really not looking back. So that's kind of how I view like our culture change at Pitt over the years. Yeah,
especially that one year where it was like, you were in the finals, Wenzel was in the finals,
yeah,
was in the blood round, with now obviously you guys got Cole on the podium. So you can kind of
right.
see like, Pitt's heading in the right direction. And I'm pretty sure you guys got a pretty nice recruiting class coming in, right?
Yeah. So, well, like you said, what's interesting is you could do all like the rule changing and preaching the philosophies about the culture and just the success we want from the team, but it does take, you do have to have the success. You have to practice what you preach. And when we have success, like guys, when we're winning ACC titles, when we're winning dole meets, when we're getting guys on the podium, like me, Cole, Jake, that also like really helps our cause and our push to be a top program. So yeah, and I didn't catch that last part of your question. I kind of went on a rant.
Yeah, no, you're good. You got it.
That
So
was a good recruiting class. Yeah,
yeah,
I think that. Yeah,
yeah,
like you said, all that contributes to a good recruiting class, and guys see that and they say, "Hey, we can also win at Pitt." So
yeah,
then they come to Pitt, and yeah. So
yeah. So speaking of recruiting, what was the transition like for you coming from high school into college, and like how much kind of the growing up in the WIPU and everything helped prepare you for college?
yeah, oh, it definitely helps. Whippeal, just PA wrestling in general gets you prepared like no state. Um, it's definitely an adjustment because even though Pennsylvania wrestling's very tough and can get you ready on its own, by the time you're a junior and senior, you're having a lot of success. So, and you start to wrestle some guys who maybe don't want to be out there with you. But I think one of the biggest things in college was finding that like nobody kind of strays away from a hard match. I felt like every person you would wrestle was like, they don't care how you did in high school. They didn't care your success before. They want to win now. So it was kind of like an interesting step up from like guys who, I mean, a PA, you might get a couple good guys at the end at states, but in college, it's like every single guy, first round, you better be ready to go because this guy's coming to like take your head off. So that was something that was a little bit of an adjustment that I think obviously Pennsylvania kind of helps you with. But what really helped me was that I would go to the pit practices when I was in high school. So I was kind of getting a taste of like,
What
how college guys compete and wrestle and train and stuff. So that definitely made it a little easier transition for me.
Yeah, going off of that a little bit. So like you competed in a lot of, the nation's premier tournaments in high school, Super 32, Flow and Nats. You were in the Dapper Dan, right?
Yes.
Okay, so like was that more so for you to like, kind of get your name out there, or was that just, like you were just looking for, tough competition like day in and day out just to like, get prepared for college? Because like kind of like what you were saying, every match is like, you're wrestling the best kid on one of the top ranked kids every single match. And
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was mainly obviously to get matches and just get experience. It was one of those things where it's like if you want to wrestle the best guys, you got to go places and you can't be scared to put yourself out there and maybe go and lose, and so that it was a lot of just trying to get better and wrestle the best guys I could. But I guess in a way also it was a way to get your name out there because if you're not ranked, or not that not that it matters, but I mean it does matter in a way of like if you're trying to get recruited and you want to put your name out there, you have to go to these national tournaments. And so if you just kind of stay within your local area and you never face any ranked guys, I mean you could obviously win in states, coupled obviously helps, but if you're not wrestling ranked guys or those top guys, it's hard to put your name out there. It's hard for people to see
how
you
good?
wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do, it's like, okay, well, he does good in this, but like, how's he do in the national circuit? Like when he's wrestling other. So it was part of like just wanting to get better, but in a way, it was also to like kind of, get my name out there a little bit because, I had success, but I wanted success on the national level. And it was actually Super 32, like my sophomore year, where I was beating some ranked guys and I actually did finally crack into the rankings, and it put my name on the map a little bit. But so yeah, I'd probably say a little bit of both, to be honest.
So all over the place here. So you were a runner up during 2021.
Yeah.
Last year you did not place, and then you obviously you brought home the title this year. What do you think the biggest differences was to help you make this get over the hump and win an NCAA title this year?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was my mental. Um, I've always had a pretty strong mental game, but I think I was finding that if I wanted to kind of crack to that next level and break through and win the title, I had to take it up another level. And it's tricky because it's like you're set in your own ways for so many years that it's almost hard to switch how you view a lot of your success and how you wrestle and everything. So that's when I found like a lot of my strength and my mental fortitude came from God. I was really practicing my faith this year, and I really became like a lot closer to Jesus and God, and that in turn eventually stepped up my mental game, and it took me to kind of new levels and new ways of viewing the sport that I really haven't had ever. And in turn, it just made me wrestle free, and I kind of transitioned from like wanting to wrestle just to kind of win and never wanting to lose and wanting to get the accolades to just kind of wrestling to wrestle, like win or lose. Like I love wrestling, and win or lose, I just want to give it 110%. Like I want to be able to walk off the mat and be like, that was all I had. And
Yeah.
that's like what I was thinking. I'm like, if I could do that, I'll be proud. Like if I win, if I lose, it's like, it doesn't matter. Did I give it all I had? Yes. All right. Then that's all that matters. So that was kind of my mindset this year, and something that just made me wrestle a lot freer. You know, I mean, a lot. I always say this, but like it worked out that I was able to use that success and those skills to get me to the national title. But it was one of those things too, where it's like could have easily went and not have had much success. You know, maybe placed but not have won, or maybe not even have placed. Like, but I would have been happy with the result just because, you know, I already won the ultimate prize, and that was, you know, I'm God's son, and that was my ultimate prize. So it didn't matter if I won or lost. It was just, you know, just performing my best. So that was my kind of mindset this year with all that stuff. So
Yeah, and especially when you like factor in this the overall composition of your weight class, obviously, obviously
yeah.
everyone was back and it was kind of a revolving door of guys with I think you started off like top 10-ish, and by
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like you were the obviously the top dog in March, but how would you feel like how did you approach competition day in and day out, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, dude, I started to embrace it, you know, because I was it's not often that even in life that you get to compete at the highest level of folk style wrestling and doing something that like I mean, I love wrestling. So like I love all the ins and outs of like the training, the strategy, you know. And I started to fall in love with the idea that like you're competing against someone who wants the same thing as you. And I just found that to be so cool. So when I got opportunities to like wrestle top guys or just big matches, like I was like excited for it. You know, like I wasn't nervous like oh shit, like I'm ranked to this. It was just like it was more so like I want to wrestle those guys. I was hoping the dole would come down to like me or him. Like I like kind of thrived in that environment. So like that's I always got excited for those big competitions, and it was nice that my weight was as chaotic as it was. You know, it was very it was fun for the fans, and in turn, it was fun for me. It was fun to kind of follow the results every week because everyone was kind of up and down and losing, and it was fun for me to compete against all these good guys because with so many good guys, that meant it was hard. Like every week,
Yeah.
every guy was pretty tough. So it was I had a lot of ranked guys this year, but it was all it was great.
So a big thing in college athletics was the NCAA brought on NIL, right, 2 years ago, right after you were a runner up. Um,
Yeah.
how has that like kind of changed the landscape? Obviously you were highly, like I said, you're a highly talented recruit or athlete and everything. How did that kind of impact you and your teammates? Because I know like Cole has a NIL with Permanis and whatnot. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, it was cool. I think a lot of guys really capitalized on it within our team as well. And obviously, I see other athletes in college, I guess other athletes, but mainly I'm thinking of more wrestlers who've had a lot of success with that stuff. I think it's cool. You know, when it first came out, I was really never big into it. I didn't know much about it, and I guess naively I thought I didn't think like I was gonna be able to make like a ton of money with it. So why like bother like really talking? I'm like I'm more I don't know. I'm just here to wrestle. I'm not here to. I didn't come to wrestle to make a ton of money. So I just wanted to wrestle and scrap, but um, not knocking any of the guys who capitalized off it because that was probably a smart thing to do looking back. But you know, I think it's good. I think it's getting a little tricky nowadays because of you see some schools kind of taking advantage of that and being able to like offer deals to guys and get recruits, you know. So it's definitely interesting to see how it's playing out. I am curious to see how it's going to play out in the future because I have a feeling the NCAA might step in and might try to put some regulations on it. But you can't knock the fact that, you know, some of these sponsors and these people are trying to make some wrestlers some money. So I'm always for that. And I'm always for getting little clothing brands, a little something to help out our college athletes. So I think it's really cool. And I'm more so curious to see kind of how it's going to evolve in the future.
yeah.
But yeah, Cole got a cool one with her Manny's.
Yeah,
That's
because he has
that's
his
sweet.
own sandwich, right, or something, or
Yeah,
like,
I'm not sure. I think he just gets like I think they just kind of promote him a little bit and he gets some free food. I'm not really sure. But either way, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so going off that, obviously this was your last year. What are your next steps for you? Like I said, you were a freestyle world team member 2 years ago. Do you plan on competing still at the senior level, or do you plan on going into coaching, or is it just like corporate America from here?
Yeah, so I'm a little torn. I recently accepted a position at Pitt to kind of stay on staff, but it's also given me a lot of freedom to compete because I do think I not so much this year, just to kind of heal up a little bit physically, mentally. Um, but the following years after this, I'd like to kind of get back in there, and it'd be hard to like just kind of walk away from competing because I am wrestling every day with the guys and training, so it's like you're like primed and ready to go, but you're not like wrestling. So it's like it's almost like you know you're I don't know. So it'll be hard to walk away from competing just yet. So I'm kind of planning on just coaching, competing a little bit, but also just I've gotten I don't know. I also try to look out what's out there a little bit as far as like sales and maybe some other positions that I might be able to do, but that's kind of in the future. For now, that's my focus is still wrestling. Um, so yeah, hopefully I can work my way up and have my own team one day. But in the meantime, I'll try to help Pitt get as good as they can and see where it goes from there. But yeah, so that's kind of my plan.
Well, I mean, you look at Nico, right? With he's like a full-time financial advisor, right? And he's also
Yeah,
competing. So I know he was a little bagged up this year, and that's why he didn't
yeah.
wrestle him. But still, like, do you kind of like look at that kind of guy, knowing that that's like something like if he can do it, I can do it, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like I think wrestling gives you a lot of connections in its own right. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely opportunities where you can compete, but also maybe do something on the corporate side too, which I think is cool. And um, I'm good friends with Miles Amin from Michigan, and I went over there to train a couple times, and I think he's in a similar boat where he's able to compete, but I think he has like his own plans of like getting into finance and stuff like that. So you see it across the board with some of these like great wrestlers that they're able to compete and do what they love, but also have other avenues of their career, which I think is kind of cool and something that, like I said, I'd love to explore. But again, until I find that option, I'm going to try to coach and compete. But it's definitely something that I thought about and would be cool if I was able to do that.
Yeah. So wrapping up in a couple questions here, but what would be the biggest advice you would give like your younger self coming into college? What were the biggest lessons that you took away from your 6 years of college?
Yeah. You know, I'd probably say don't get so hung up on your results. Um, but it's almost hard to say that because I do think that it was all for a reason. And I do value, you know, some of those losses I took that kind of hurt me. Making it the round of 12 or just losing when you don't want to lose, obviously. Um, so it's kind of hard to say. I'd say don't get hung up on your losses and the fact that don't question your training. A lot of times when I would lose, I'd feel like I'd have to like reinvent the wheel and be like, all right, maybe I got to start working this more. I would overcomplicate it when it was really just as simple as like you just lost this one. Let's just nothing's wrong. You don't have to change your style up. But so I'd probably say in that aspect, don't complicate yourself when you lose. I'd probably say that. But I'd also say, stick just have faith because there was a lot of times when, you know, I mean, I would every single day, multiple like every hour, I'm thinking how I can be a national champ, and it's a lot. It's like every day you wake up, you're like, how can I? It was just like it's a lot. It's a big goal, and it's like it's just something that was very. It just weighed on you because you want to do it so bad, but it's like it's so hard. And but if I could just go back and be like, just have faith that it'll all work out, because now it's like I don't know, my mind feels very free and very at peace with it. So probably I'd say those two things. That makes sense.
That
They
makes
probably
sense.
didn't make that much sense.
No, it made sense. But Yeah, so I have a feeling that I know what you're gonna say, but what's your most memorable win, and also like kind of like what's your most devastating loss? You know, like one
Yeah,
win
for
that stood out, one loss that stands out.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a different answer because I think the champ. I'll give you a different one than that. It's too easy.
Yeah.
You know, as far as recently, I think I have two stick out in my head that were like pretty cool. I We wrestled Virginia Tech the year in 2020, the year before the championships got canceled. We wrestled Virginia Tech, and I had the guy I was wrestling, a wrestler who was ranked 2 at the time, and it was a close team duel, and I ended up winning. His name was Hunter Bolin. I ended up winning in like ride out, and it propelled our team to also win. So that was like a crazy match. That was like one that always sticks out because it was back and forth, and I managed to get one at the end, and it was just a tough opponent. So that one sticks out. And then as far as this year, it was when we wrestled Iowa State.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
you took
wrestling
a
another.
match there. Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said you had a tough one there with a
Yeah,
Batista.
Bastida,
Yeah.
Bastida, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was back and forth, and he was actually edging me, and he was beating me, and it was like short time, and I couldn't take him down. I had trouble finishing, and then at the very end, I finally broke through and took him down right to his back, and I got some back late near fall points, and it won me the match, and like the crowd went crazy. So those two kind of stick out. Like those were one of my funner matches I've had, and on the other side, one of the worst, most devastating ones I had was probably last year in the round of 12. Just because I was coming off such a high of making the finals and making the world team the year before, to kind of go from that to as low as losing in the blood round. That was probably one of my most devastating losses, I'd say. But very grateful for it now because it propelled me to get where I'm at today. So I don't know. It was devastating at the time, but looking back, I think it was very necessary. So
Yeah, so we were talking about Keith Gavin earlier, right? You know, and kind of like the impact he had on you. Who are
yeah,
some other people that were like very instrumental in your life to help you, get to where you are today?
yeah. Um, well, for one, my dad for sure. My dad he's been my coach since I was 4 years old. He sacrificed a lot of his time and money to take me to practice and just be a great mentor and role model for me. And he is a great dad. And um, so that was him. My mother, she was she was also she was probably more intense than my dad at sometimes as far as coaching and giving me tips.
That's
But
a lot of fun.
that's yeah. So she gave a lot of her time and to she'd give me anything if I asked for it. So she was very instrumental. Then my brother, definitely, because like them too, he was very willing to help me out at anything I needed, and he even came up. When it was actually during COVID, there were times we couldn't get in for training or even during the season when I wanted an extra workout or something, he would come up, and he's been retired from wrestling for 7 years, so he would come up and we would scrap, and he was always very helpful with me for that. So definitely my family. And then I guess as far as besides some of my coaches and everything, it's too hard to name like all of them, but Mickey Philippi was definitely one of them. He was my best friend on the team, and it was nice having someone who shared similar values and morals to kind of push you through every day. And love Mickey. So probably those people stick out. But like I said, there's been so many people that's helped me throughout my career between youth coaches and friends. It's hard to it's hard to name all of them. And Greg Bulsack for one. He was he's from South Park, so right across the street from me basically, and he wrestled at Clarion, then transferred to Rutgers, and then this year he was able to come in and help me all year. And I attribute a lot of my success to Greg because he really helped me this year. He was a tough uh, mother effer to score on and wrestle. So he was great. And yeah, so just a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like the old saying, it takes an army, right?
Yeah, exactly. I always say, like I there was a lot of hands who helped lifting my trophy on Saturday night. It wasn't
Exactly. It wasn't.
definitely wasn't just me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got any closing thoughts for us today?
No, man, just I'm just very, very grateful, very happy I was able to push through. But even more excited to see where life takes me now. I gotta accomplish one of my goals, but now I'm excited to look for the next thing and the next big opportunity, big goals in my life, and I'm excited to strive and chase after them. But yeah, no comments from me. Thanks for having me. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I love talking wrestling and
Yeah.
careers and stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Nino.